What moment in life are you in right now? Are things rosy for you, or are you going through a dark moment? What do you think is happening in your life? Do you imagine that God is not with you? Can you understand what you are going through right now? Whatever the situation is that you are going through right now, know that in it lies your treasure and blessings in life. You may be going through a hard time or the worst moment of your life, and now nothing seems to be changing, or you lack the hope to see that things will change. God is assuring you that this is but a phase, and in it is a seed that will spring up and bring forth so many good fruits containing blessings and treasures for your life. The man named Joseph in the Bible went through so many dark moments. Dark moments in this context represent hard times or challenging times in life, but it ended with a great testimony. Genesis 37 verse 5, "And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more." Now Joseph had the first hard time when he told his family about his dream that he had dreamt. This made them to hate him. The dream is seen in this scripture, Genesis 37 verse 7. "For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and Io, my sheaf, arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf." Now the family had understanding of the dream, and since the dream showed a brighter future for Joseph than them, they hated him. In the second account of Joseph, another of his dreams, in Genesis 37 verse 9, "And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me." Now Joseph had begun to see a glorious future for himself that God has prepared for him, and again he went to share it with his family. In Genesis 37 verse 10, "And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth?" In the next verse, Genesis 37 verse 11, "And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. Joseph's brothers began to envy him. They hated him for the glorious future and the blessings that he is seeing for himself." This began the very first dark moment for Joseph, because his own family that was supposed to support him now hated and envied him. In Genesis 37, verse 18 through 20, "And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said one to another, Behold, this dream cometh. Come now therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say, Some evil beast hath it devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams." Joseph, not knowing the plans of his brothers, he was looking for them, and when they saw him, they began conspiring to kill him and to cast him into the pit, and then they would lie about his whereabouts. This they did so that they would terminate the glorious future he had seen. In verse 23 and 24 of that scripture, "And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that had stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, there was no water in it. Joseph was thrown into the pit by his own brothers." What a dark moment it is for him, and to worsen the situation, these things were done by people he loved. Joseph went through so much in the hands of his own brothers. As if that was not enough, while they were still outside the pit, they thought to sell Joseph. Genesis 37 verse 28. "Then there passed by Midianites merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Israelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. Joseph was sold to the Israelites, and then he was taken into Egypt. Joseph had just become a slave, but little did his brothers or him know that in all these things lies his treasure, blessings, and fulfillment of his dream. Joseph was then sold in verse 36, and the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard. Even as Joseph became a slave, the Lord was still with him. So no matter what you are going through, know that God is with you and that you will come out a winner from any situation, no matter how dark it may be. Genesis 39 verse 2. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. Joseph started to prosper in the land where he was sold to. His brothers wanted him to suffer, but God was saying a different thing. God had kept a prosperous future for him. In that challenge you are going through, God has kept a glorious future for you. So you should not be discouraged by the present circumstances of things or what other people are doing to you. In all these things lies in it your treasures and blessings. Genesis 39 verse 5. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him oversee in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. Potiphar made Joseph oversee in his house. Someone that was to be a slave, considering the circumstances, he was brought to the house. But God made him to find favor and grace. The house of Potiphar was blessed because of Joseph's sake. Joseph had just seen some of the blessings that God is doing for him, despite going through the first difficult time with his brothers. Yet again, Joseph encounters another dark moment, but this time it is greater than what he had experienced. In Genesis 39 verse 7, and it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. His master's wife came to him to ask him to sleep with her. Joseph, being just a man, said he cannot do this wickedness against God. In Genesis 39 verse 9. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? Joseph had the fear of God, and because of that he refused to sleep with his master's wife. The master's wife kept disturbing him, and he kept on refusing. Genesis 39 verse 16 through 19. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spoke unto him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spoke unto him, saying, After this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. On this account she held him and tore his garment. And he ran out because he doesn't want to sleep with her. So she called other men in the house and said that Joseph wanted to rape her. She waited for her husband, Potiphar, to come, and she said the same thing to him, that Joseph wanted to rape, and her husband became very angry, just like any other person. And then he arrested him and put him in prison. Genesis 39 verse 20. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. In spite of all these things that Joseph was going through, God is saying that his treasure and blessings are in this dark times. One will ask, how can going to prison, being accused wrongly, represent blessings awaiting him? Genesis 39 verse 21. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Even in the prison, Joseph found favor and he prospered. But God is not done yet. God has prepared a glorious future for him, and it is the same with you. No matter what you are going through right now, no matter the challenge, no matter how things are bad, God is saying that in it lies your treasures and blessings. While Joseph was still in prison, one of the guards of Pharaoh, who was put in prison, dreamt, and there was no one to interpret. So when he heard it, he interpreted the dream for the guard and asked him to remember him when he leaves the prison. This guard was released, and then when he was back in the palace, he had forgotten about Joseph. 2 years passed, and then Pharaoh dreamt and needed an interpreter to his dream. He wanted the wise men and magicians to give him the meaning, but there was no one that could do it. Now that God that Joseph had interpreted his dream told Pharaoh about him, and Pharaoh sent for him, and Joseph came unto Pharaoh, and he told him his dream. And in the dream, by the help of God, Joseph interpreted the dream unto Pharaoh. Pharaoh was so glad that his dream had been interpreted, and he made Joseph so powerful in Egypt that only himself as the king was greater than him. Genesis 41 verse 41 through 43. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, Bow the knee, and he made him rule over the land of Egypt. Joseph had become so influential and powerful in the land of Egypt. Remember that this was the same man that was hated by his brothers, put inside the pit, sold for slavery, falsely accused, sent to prison, put through these dark moments. God was saying to him that all these things happened because your treasures and blessings were hidden in these dark moments. If Joseph had not gone through all these challenges, the star in him wouldn't have emerged. It is the same thing with you now. You are going through whatever you are going through for a reason. God has placed a crown and glorious future ahead of you. Do not look at your present circumstances or challenges, but believe that in all these things God is preparing you and taking you to the place. Your lifting and rising are in these moments of your life that things seems not to be going so well. God has positioned a great destiny for you, so cheer up, keep your dreams alive in you. Trust the Lord, follow His ways in all situations, not compromising yourself for any monetary pleasures. God has placed forever a blessing for you ahead. Your treasures and blessings are hidden in your dark moments. These have been the strategy of God, concealing greatness in small things. So you must continuously believe what God is doing through your life, and know that the challenging moment that you are in is only a phase, and that your glorious destiny is sure.